apologies from Councillor Lynn Thompson and Councillor Anna Roddy. Is anybody else aware of any other apologies? No. I think we are a quorum. We do have a quorum, so we'll carry on. Can I do ask if any members got any declarations of interest on any item on the agenda, please? No? Okay. And any matters of urgency to be admitted to the agenda would not be in the interest of the efficient operation of the service. And I don't think we've got any matters of urgency. And there are no items of exempt business to consider on the agenda. Okay, so if we move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, which are on pages 1 to 8 of the agenda, and that's the minutes of the 1st of September 2022. Okay, has anybody got any points to raise from the minutes? No? So can they be formally agreed, please? Right, thank you very much. So we'll move on to item 3, which is the Marine Rescue Unit Fleet Refresh, and I will ask the Chief to introduce this item, please. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The purpose of the report is to set out the options for the fleet refresh for the Marine Rescue Unit and to seek approval of the Merseyside Fire and Rescue Authority for the option of purchasing 2 Atlantic 85 A85 inshore lifeboats from the RNLI at the cost of £300,000, inclusive of the costs of 2 additional engines. And the recommendation is that members approve the purchase of the said Atlantic 85 inshore lifeboats at the cost identified, and note that the fleet options and projected costs to ensure a planned fleet life of 10 years for the use of the A85 type boats, and that's built into the our workforce plans and our asset refresh of those particular assets. And this is to replace 2 previous vessels, the A75 fleet, which were purchased by the authority in 2018 from the RNLI, and we knew at the time we had a lifespan for those boats between 3 and 5 years, and coming up to effectively their end of life now, and we are required to replace them to be able to maintain our response onto the river. Equally, the purchase of the 2 boats as proposed allow us to ensure that we are meeting the Rescue Boat Code and we are compliant and capable of achieving that compliance. That's been a consideration in relation to the replacement of the said vessels. And as I say, we have a preferred option, which has been identified following rigorous analysis, and service managers have concluded that the option for fleet refresh meets all the criteria as set out in the Rescue Boat Code, and is tabled by the RNLI as the retirement of 2 A85 boats, which will be adopted by the authority. We believe that this represents good value for money, and it's the first time that the RNLI have released any 885 boats into other organisations across the UK. And we have a strong recommendation to this member of the authority that they adopt the proposal and the recommendation. And I'm happy to take any questions around a specific asset refresh.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Yeah, Paul?
Just a couple. I can't remember how much they cost, the 75. Remember how much they cost?
No, they weren't new. I remember they were old boats. I don't think it's a substantial cost because there's 300,000. We've got the capital programme for the asset refresh. That was in the budget at the time. I'm not sure if they were actually gifted. I don't know because they were so old. So no,
will we make any money on giving them away? We're going to give them away now, or are we already going to?
The A75 boats, they will be disposed of. And I think because they come to the end of their useful life from a fire and rescue service point of view, we may well get some value back into the authority on the basis of releasing them in some way, shape or form, albeit one has been damaged previously. Members will recall one got hit by a tugboat on the River Mersey, and as part of the litigious claim now. But nevertheless, the one vessel that we've got left, if there is any saleable value to it, then we will obviously.
Or even get them to community group or whatever, make some use of it at least.
Yeah, and look, we will dispose of it, accordingly as members. We often dispose of part appliances that would go into likes of Ukraine and the likes. Alternatively, there is value in the disposal of the vehicle and scrap value. And so we will take a view on the best and suitable way to dispose of the single 875 best boat that we've got with the stands and 200 over there, and appropriate ways to dispose of it.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Linda?
Yeah, that's true, 2.3. When I was down there, last time I went down there, one thing that hit me was the fumes of the engines. It was really, really bad, turned my stomach. Is there any way we could make them green in your engines?
We are going to be, well, on the basis of the proposal, in effect, what we are doing is we're taking two 85 those that have been utilised by the RMI, and because it's a bloody cost-effective way of Merseyside Fire Rescue Service Authority managing that kind of transition and change from 875, we will be given the engines that they are providing. Now, as the RMI kind of develop and progress, there's no doubt that the engines are probably more efficient than the ones that you've identified previously. But given the fact that we are not speccing out our own vessels and our own engines, we will be adopting the ones that appear to be in the ownership of the RMI. We probably have more limited options to be able to make it more green, because we know that is essentially for.
And the second point, thanks, Chair, is on 13 it says that a legal time to buy new is 4 years. But this doesn't work out, we need to start looking at this next year.
Yes, and that's part of the asset refresh strategy really in regards to ensuring that we have A, sufficient money, and B, leading time to be able to facilitate a new build if indeed that's the way that we wanted to take it. What I would say is, with the A75s that have been described previously, have come through the RMI, and we've replaced our previous vessels that were, and these are the boat code. The A85s that we will utilise for the next period of time, but again, the boat code. And because we've got a really strong working relationship with the RMI now, it may well be that we see to embed that in the longer term, and as they look to change their vessels again, we keep and maintain kind of cognizance of what they're doing and keep that relationship strong, and just continue to take and receive the vessels that they are no longer utilising in their field.
Okay. Sorry, before we bring Linny in, can you just clarify, I think the report does indicate that the retired vessels will be as new. So I think that's one of the conditions, if you like. Okay, Linny?
This is just a bit of a question, but why? Obviously, Father Nella is a charity, you do loads of fundraising to get boats. Why are they disposing of the boats? This, I just can't get my head around it. They're raising money to get all these boats. Why are they disposing of them at this time? Do they have different specifications, or why are they no good to them and other good to us? I know that's a very common sense question. It means common sense to me, and also, how old are the boats that they're disposing? Because if you look at the figures, we say it's going to be 700, 800,000 if we're going to buy a year. In terms of depreciation on anything, I just want to understand it, because I just wonder why a charity would get rid of a boat that people raise money for.
So typically their utilisation is in more challenging conditions than it would be from a fire and rescue service point of view. We mobilise resources around the major estuary and not beyond that, and the RMI can go in excess of that. And parcel of it, not just speak singularly about a relationship we have with the Merseyside kind of area, they also replace vessels on a broader scale across the whole of the UK. So maybe I'll do that part of the refresh of all of their vessels over a period of time, and they, like us, will have an asset refresh plan, and we're not probably give those vessels a 5-year life. But we know that they remain fit for purpose for another 10 years. But part of their refresh, they will replace those vessels, but there's still life left in them. And as Councillor Kennedy's alluded to, they refurbish them and they get them to a standard. Now there's probably they would describe as a sweet spot for them, where they can utilise them up to a point, and then they have saleable value, so you can sell them to someone at a point in time, and that represents good value for them. And then they replace those vessels with newer vessels to be able to maintain a kind of safety art, cutting edge marine kind of provision. But that will be built into their asset management plans, and as I say, we benefit from that on the basis that we are able to take in still a considerable amount of life left in that vessel. But part of that will be their determination really rather than necessarily ours.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Yeah, Jan?
Yeah, just to say that if they fulfill the criteria that we need, it to me, it appears like a symbiotic, like a good relationship, like a good thing to do with it, filling a gap, for a good price. As long as they're technically up to it, which they are.
Yes. Okay, thanks, Jack. Any other points? No? Yeah,
Is that
Leslie?
completely guaranteed in place and kind of in the future, so 12 months or so guarantee on it?
Yeah,
Come with anything like
the
that?
relationship that we've got with them, obviously, they do a fairly significant, because it's national rather than necessarily just specific to the Merseyside. They have a fair amount of support in regards to the kit equipment and the expertise to repair and maintain the boats. And with Southampton, they will do the same for us for a period. So they will provide us with that reassurance that instead of just giving us them red down after a few months, they will continue to service them into the future as well. That's part of that ongoing relationship that we were alluding to, because we are utilising their vessels and their boats, then we have the ability to utilise their skills and competencies to maintain and look after the boats too. So it really is a good working relationship where they benefit, but we equally benefit from the arrangements. And we would look to sustain that into the longer term. So it's not just about replacing the boats. On this occasion, coming the end of their life, we would look to then replace them with whatever the A95, if that's the kind of the case, at a future point in time, and then keep them for another period of time, and to keep that relationship going over a period.
Okay, thanks, Leslie. Anybody else? No? In that case, is the committee happy to agree the two-part recommendation on page 9? Is that agreed? Thank you very much. Thank you. So we move on to page 15 of the agenda, the bonfire report 2022. And again, if I invite the chief to introduce the report, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Well, we'll introduce the report, but I'd love to Group Manager Franny Hill and Area Manager Mark Thomas to talk about the specifics of the report and the plan that's been put in place over many years now, but specifically in relation to the 2022 bonfire plan. But the actual purpose of the report is to inform members of the outcomes of that bonfire period, and it's recommended that members note the contents of the report and the impact that Merseyside Fire and Rescue Services had on our communities over the period, and note that this service was planned delivered to our staff and partners has been the most successful to date. Just to highlight some of the kind of the particular issues, just 16% reduction in the number of anti-CHP fires over the period, and the bonfire period runs from the 19th of October to the 7th of November, with some particularly challenging dates in there, as members will be more than aware. If you're happy to, Chair, I'll hand it across to Mark and Franny, and they can talk about some of the specifics in relation to the work that we've done over that period.
Okay, thanks very much. Right, do you want to come in first, Mark?
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Chair. Thanks, Chief. So, as the Chief says, I'm Mark Thomas, I'm the Head of Prevention here at Merseyside. And members won't be any strangers to the bonfire activity that we do year on year. So, in terms of the bonfire, Chief talked about an October planning start for the bonfire period in June of every year. And we plug in with Merseyside Police in terms of Operation Banger, as we do with our local authority colleagues. Meetings involve all our district-based police commanders, and as I say, we will contribute collaboratively towards Operation Banger. Heavily supported by our corporate communications team, and you will all be aware around bonfire planning period that we go heavy in terms of social media. And Chief's right, from the 24th of October until Friday the 4th of November, the activity is underway. We use tipper trucks right across Merseyside, and Franny is going to update in terms of the detail a little finer. We use high visibility activity to make sure that we're able to support communities. We have the arson team at Alton Fire Station, which is part of a wider departmental improvement, but that supports us in terms of delivery out in the field, so to speak. We use potential arson threats, tipping referrals, which our crews contribute to. We have community risk management routes. Again, our crews are really instrumental in bringing this information back to us so that we can then action it in terms of keeping the communities safe. Talk about the tipper trucks in each district. On the 4th, 5th and 6th of November every year, we have a more tolerant approach, and we do this with our local authority partners. So we allow fires to burn given the fact that we risk assess them, and they're only allowed to burn if the risk assessment means it doesn't pose a risk to property or any people that are in attendance, and if the bonfire is organised safely. Finally, before I pass over to Franny, unfortunately, once again, we did have attacks on firefighters. A big part of the operation is to make sure that that doesn't happen. We engage with those people who might be indulging in antisocial behaviour, and we try to influence their decision making. But sadly, once again, there were 5 reports of attacks on firefighters. None of those were reported post the 30th of October, which is a good thing, obviously. In terms of attacks on firefighters, these have gone down by 3 when compared to the same period last year. Of the 5 attacks in 2022, 4 involved missiles being thrown at fire appliances or vehicles. Others involved firework, and 1 involved a small stone. And the final instance involved a youth hitting a fire appliance with a cricket bat. And clearly, members will be fundamentally aware that we don't tolerate this type of behaviour. Work really closely with our colleagues in Merseyside Police to bring those who undertake this type of activity into the criminal justice system. And that's where I'll end it, and I'll pass over to Franny to go through the detail of the appendix report.
Can I just ask a very, very quick one? You got the eggs, is that mischief night, was it, or something? Stop, what, mischief night?
I think the 30th is mischief night, yeah, so this is a concept.
It'll sit between the 26th and November, isn't it?
It is, yeah, so we have the 30th is mischief night, then we have the 31st is Halloween, and then we have the 5th of November.
Which is that egg seems to be the mischief thing, when we have them at my window before.
Yeah, it's a good point, Councillor Tweedy, because we deeply like the bonfire to cater over this mischief night concept that appears to have arrived here on these shores.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Sorry, Chair.
Thanks.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, Franny, to you, please.
Yeah, hello everybody, Franny Hill, I lead up the community safety team, which involves the arson team and incident investigation team, who leads on the bonfire period. So this year we've assembled the team in one coordinated location, which is also a fire station, and that is to have a pan-Merseyside approach. So I think we've been the most successful here to date, and that's reflected in some of that. We had 183 delivered secondary fires this year, which is a reduction of 16%. Now, some of that is down to weather, some of it's down to what's going on in districts in terms of engagement, or considering it's a 16% reduction, we're really proud of that. Reduction across all of the districts, apart from Sefton this year, which saw an increase of nearly just over 100%. But when you look at actually, you dig down into that, 1,000 population, it was actually the lowest of 0.8, which, because we reduced Sefton down to such low numbers in previous years, that is reflected in an increase this year, or something that we'll keep an eye on for next year and build into the plan early doors. When we work through the figures on the plan, we've got table 2 that identifies the delivered secondary fires that took place. And you can see the decrease right across each of the districts. But if we reflect it back to 2016, we've actually had a 60% reduction this year. So over the 6 years, it's shown that the plans really work, and getting into our communities allows us to reduce the number of incidents that we're attending. Out of the top wards, again, we have Birkenhead and Tranmere that stick out over 9 years, over a 10-year period. So again, I think next year we really need to dig a little bit deeper in this area. Issues related more this year to around the street guardsmen, which provides us with more activity for our teams than we would have liked, but with the police next year, we'll be doing a more coordinated approach with that. When we relate back to the balance of work, we had 3 in Knowsley, 1 in Liverpool, 1 in Sefton. These dates were around from the 23rd up to the 30th, but 4 of the incidents were the 29th and 30th. So, as Bethany pointed out by Councillor Tweed, it is around about that period where we have the mischief going on. I'm glad to report there was no actual injuries to any of our staff. It was more vehicle damage that went on, and it was minor damage. There was 1 use of a cricket bat at an incident that we previously attended. So I think youths had congregated into that area, but on the whole, there was more damage by either eggs or a firework aimed at the vehicles. We worked with the police on this, did the investigation, but we were able to grab anything significant and push it forward. When we worked through again, the latter end of the report just specifically points into each of the areas. Or if we look at chart 5, I think this shows us around deprivation and where we're at the incidents, and it quite clearly shows us that deliberate fires occur and then a high deprivation opposed to least deprivation. These are the areas that we are targeting, and we were able to remove 53 tonnes of waste this year, which is significant across all of these districts. And we also engaged this year with the probation service and put on an additional ticket truck in the Wirral. We were able to provide assistance. We're going to take this offer up across all districts next year and get them involved with us to work alongside our staff and maybe look to take a bit more off the streets. Well, I hope that's it. Good enough summary.
Okay, thanks, Danny. Thanks very much. Anybody got any comments or questions, Danny, to the Chief, Mark, or Fanny? Linda, first, please.
Just to comment on the actual report itself, it's absolutely brilliant. It's easy reading and you can understand it as soon as you read it. So well done, everybody.
Okay, thanks for that, Linda. Thanks. Who had the hand? Was it you, Jan? Yeah.
I think Leslie was before.
Okay, sorry, Leslie.
No, that's all right, that's fine, thanks. Fran, just, can you break down a little bit for us as well some of the preventative work that goes on with people who sell fireworks? Do we still visit the, I'll say suppliers, but, corner shops and that sort of thing? And I seem to remember some years ago, there used to be an operation which was undertaken where the fire service and the police would meet somewhere around, I think it was the Stafford area on the M6, to obviously do spot checks on illegal fireworks coming into our area. Does that sort of thing still go on, or is there not needed anymore?
Yeah, so we have our protection departments, and they concentrate on the visits, making sure people are not storing more than they should be, that they're stored in the safe areas that they should be. So that comes under the registration part of our activity, but that's by the protection department. And this year, I think we did plus 160 registrations. In relation to what you refer to with the motorways, that was more around the OCG stuff, and that's tailored off now. So I was in the same department back 8 years ago, and it was more coming out of Manchester. That's where it was being driven from, but that activity is massively reduced now over the years, so we're not seeing that issue. So what we are trying to do is just concentrate on the issues that are coming up and direct our resources at them. But hopefully that work that was done many years ago, we're seeing that issue die off.
Okay, thanks, Leslie. Jan?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask things like Sefton's percentage having gone up, if you're aware if that's lots of separate incidents or if there's any connection, if there's sort of one group of people behind separate incidents or not.
No, as stated before, so low numbers, there's always going to be an increase in Sefton if we were anticipating it. And it sounds a lot when you talk about 100% increase. As it pointed out, 0.8 of every 10,000 population, it's really low numbers again. But we know where the activity was. Our synopsis group were fairly close with the PCSOs and the police in that area. There wasn't any clusters for this. It was, big area, big location. So what we will do back to next year is we'll try and dig a little bit deeper and maybe put some preventative activity in them areas to try and head that off. But as far as we were this year, no, there was nothing standing out of any targeted approach by any youth in that area.
That's great, thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, thanks, Jan. Edna?
Thanks, Chair. To Leslie's question is that in Milsey we had like a seminar recent, and what we found out is that there's a van goes round and sells the fireworks to the young people. So I know Milsey were investigating it. I can't tell you what the outcome was of it, but apparently this van's been going all over Milsey selling the fireworks, and they're so cheap that you know, they don't know what's in them, it could be so dangerous with them. They had got hold of one young guy who had these fireworks, he told them that he got them off the van, and it was like really, really bad, really bad. So they took it off them. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Edna. Do you want to come in, Mark? Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just in response, I suppose, to Councillor Grace and to Councillor Fair. Firstly, if we become aware of that type of activity, we work really closely, as Franny says, with Merseyside Police as the enforcement authority against fireworks. So, you know, we work closely to close that type of activity down, if you like. In terms of the activities in Sefton and elsewhere, we review the data on a daily basis throughout the bonfire period. So if it does become apparent that there are hotspots effectively, we can deploy resources to go into those types of areas to make sure that, you know, we can offset it before it becomes an issue for us.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Okay, Linny, please.
Thanks, great reports as well. Just on relation to the young people thing as well, I know certainly when I was in youth work years ago, a lot of the stuff we did around is mystery shopping, and whether we can actually work with youth service or the young inspectors which cover the city. It's the sale of fireworks where actually you send them in mystery shopping to see, because like my niece she's 19, New Year's Eve, and her boyfriend doesn't make people spend £200 on fireworks for New Year's Eve, and I was like, how did you, she is 19, but she doesn't look it. And I was like, where did you get them from? How did you even get saved? Did they ask you for ID? And she's like, she got them in that bit by the accident and stuff. But like literally, my sister's house in Speakers like Sefton Park on Bonnie night. I was like, oh, New Year's Eve, tons of fireworks. But that mystery shopping, can we do something next year with the services maybe to do something like that?
If I may come in, I can
Yeah.
confirm this year, some of them test purchases went on. So police utilised their police cadets and our fire cadets. So I know that people targeting where that information is coming in. I'm not sure how much was follow-up, but we will be meeting early in June, and some of that information will be provided to us so we can then look to work with them again this year. But the test purchases definitely went on this year.
Yeah.
Chair, if I just pick up on that particular point, and when we come across individuals who aren't complying with the licensing arrangements, then they're supplying fireworks on that basis. And so that kind of trading standards desk, test purchasing, that is an integral part of what we do. However, we can definitely strengthen that in the next couple of years.
Can I just add, I know this is something we've done in the Whittle in the past, as far as off licenses are concerned, where we've had complaints about off licenses selling alcohol to underage people. We've sent young people in as a sort of a test. I know it's been done before, fairly successfully. Okay. Right, any more comments or questions? No? Well, I think can I just say I endorse what Linda was saying before about the report, the way it's laid out. It's very clear. So thank you very much. There's obviously a lot of hard work gone into that. And even though we've heard a couple of negative things today, I think overall, I think we must recognise that it's a very positive report. And I think we should welcome it. I think we're definitely heading in the right direction. And I think thanks in particular to people like Mark and Franny for all the hard work they've done. Thanks very much. Okay.
But with another comment, sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
The show that went ahead in St Helens, I tried really hard to make it a laser light thing instead of fireworks. It was unsuccessful. So if we all keep trying every year, say use laser lights, don't use fireworks, we might one day get there.
Chair, may I comment on that? We were very grateful to St Helens because actually it attracts people from their local back gardens, the streets, and right in the heart of kind of communities, and draws everyone to registered events where the safety is managed in a more proficient manner, and it also detracts from antisocial behaviour directed towards firefighters and fire crews over that period of time. So very much encourage local authorities actually to run their events. And I suppose the realism part of that, and the being realistic and pragmatic, is we recognise that people will be drawn to firework events, but it's how they online safely over that period. But actually, we would be encouraging, we would be supportive of large-scale events rather than lots of little events taking place across communities, really, and some of those more problematic issues for ourselves, where little community events that were done on the parts of wasteland close proximity to people's houses. So we're trying to avoid those and directing people into large-scale events. But we know, post-COVID, they're really financially challenged. The authorities aren't always in a position to do that, and haven't been over the course of the last.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Lily?
Just another thought. Do we get the figures for the same period from health in terms of presentations at hospital for injuries? So when my niece and nephew would do it on New Year's Eve, we were really conscious, even if people had to, I'll be honest, in terms of supervising it. In terms of this, it would be really interesting to see how many presentations that have happened in A&E as a result of fireworks and stuff like that, just to give us a broader picture of what's happening and how many people are doing it in their own back gardens and stuff. If we could have them figures, say this how many people presented to A&E with, firework, it might help to sort of think it just as a supplement if we can get them figures as well.
Yeah, I'm just nodding there, so that was a given. I think that's a very sensible suggestion, to be perfectly honest with you, and something we probably haven't kind of considered, which is being able to provide further evidence of the fact that people are suffering burns and injuries as a result of such activities, and that just reinforces the point of getting them to large-scale events which are better controlled and managed rather than having the local ones in communities where people's practice and the consumption of alcohol plays a part in subsequent injuries, for sure.
Okay, thanks very much. Any more comments, questions? No? Yeah, good.
I've only got one share, just to reassure members that actually I rode on the 3rd Mischief Night across Merseyside. I actually rode in Knowsley with Kirby crews, and one of those instances of advance up towards firefighters was directed towards the clients that I was on. In the next spot where there was an egg thrown at the vehicle, we didn't realise until we got back to the station. Interestingly enough, that the vehicle had been targeted. But some of those things are prevalent in our communities, and whilst we might consider Mischief Night and youth throwing an egg at an appliance as being acceptable, it's not acceptable. We enforce the points that Mark makes. An egg turns into a stone, turns into a brick, which turns into a bat. And so I think we have a zero tolerance around some of those things, and where we are able to evidence that, we will deal with the perpetrator. That dealing with the perpetrator doesn't always necessitate us dealing with them robustly with police. It may well be that we will deal with them through an educational route and a restorative justice route, rather than necessarily be punitive and attach a caution to an individual. But the fact of the matter is, we still recognise the fact that we were trying to re-educate the individual in regards to what's expected behaviours during that period of time, and their parents and their families, if it extends beyond the young person themselves. So again, just to reinforce the point here, MSF will tolerate that kind of behaviour in our communities, and it's important for members to know that, because ultimately firefighters are quite at risk through this kind of behaviour at times, whether it be Merseyside or beyond our boundaries. And there are examples of where firefighters have been injured as a result of this type of behaviour, and we don't tolerate it here at Merseyside.
Okay, yeah.
Can I just come in?
Yeah.
I was just thinking, would it be a good idea, we all represent different areas, and like, you give us the figures in our area. Before, in November, sometimes maybe we could go into the school, especially the 11-year-olds onwards, where maybe we get that, and you can talk about it, and then sort of like do a presentation, and let the kids see exactly what it is that they're doing, and how much it can cause. It's just an idea.
Thanks, President. Yeah, we do that, and I'll come back to it. So I talked about some of the kind of work that the Arsenal team would do with these colleagues and other partners actually going in and educating, young people in schools. Sometimes we will target to areas where previously, historically, we've had issues. So rather than going to one location, we would go into a school where we know we've had some problems in and around that school in the past. And that'll be about just kind of sharing some of the things that talk about, if you like throwing stones at a fire engine, you damage the appliance, you smash the windscreen, then that fire engine doesn't become available to be deployed across your community, to your homes, to your families. And that's parcel of the approach that we would adopt. Equally, as parcel of the national work now, there's a product called Staywise, which is an educational platform, which is readily available across the UK Fire and Rescue Service. They're now building, again, kind of a virtual world where education can be taking place by a teacher, so in a school setting, so the teacher can bring up the product and then talk to the young people at that time around the bonfire period, the lead up to the behaviours that are expected from fire and rescue services. So whilst we might target our resource into a school because of historic incidents of fire, what we would also encourage is teachers across the broader areas of Merseyside to again re-emphasise some of the points, not only about anti-social behaviour, but how to enjoy the bonfire period safely, which again is a key part and parcel of large-scale managed events. So all parts of that education, but absolutely we go into schools, but particularly targeted during the bonfire period.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, there's no more comments or questions. Can we move on to the recommendation on page 15 of the agenda, please? And again, it's a two-part recommendation. Can that be approved? Agreed. Right, thank you very much. Well, I don't think there's any other items on the agenda. And if you just note, please, the next meeting is on the 6th of April this year. Okay, thank you very much for attending today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I don't want.